Hello, my friends. Welcome. Today, I got to speak with Karla Clark from Urban Magick. She shares with us some ancient techniques for helping us clear out all of the old stuff, the old beliefs, the old patterns that are keeping us stuck, and how to make way for all the new ideas and possibilities that are living within us, just waiting to be explored. Hello, welcome. We're here with Karla Clark of Urban Magick. Woo woo. Hi, Karla. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Shannon.
Absolutely. So I know a little bit about your magic that you do, but for anybody who doesn't have the privilege of already knowing you, can you tell us a little bit about you and the magical services you provide?
I'm trained in 4 styles of earth magic and shamanism from around the world. So Central American magic, South American magic, and 2 styles of Celtic shamanism. And then about 15 years ago, I found the tradition of King Salomon, and it is a universal tradition. So shamanic work handles the earth, water, air, and fire, the very earthy, sensual parts of us and who we are, and sometimes the familial aspects. But the Solomonic tradition is actually a universal tradition, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world or what your genetics are, it'll work. And that's something I really love about it. And so this magic encompasses a lot. So King Solomon's tradition, he had the life purpose of getting together universal healing and teaching methods for all humans, no matter where they are in the world. And so I love it because I do have friends working in 60 countries with these tools, and it works everywhere, which cannot be said for the same for shamanism, because I'm trained in different kinds. And so I find, I've got a lot of Celtic blood personally. And so if someone comes into me and has enough Celtic genetics, it seems like that style can work well with them. And then with the South American style, when I brought it back to the United States, I didn't feel like it sat very well here because it's anchored in the earth in South America. So some of the shamanic traditions go more with the genetics or the location, but the Solomonic magic, it transcends because it has angelic and celestial and universal energies as well. And so I feel really confident with the teaching methods and the healings, no matter where we are in the world. So I've had people come in, that are from Middle East, Asia, different parts of North America, Europe, South America, and all receive benefit. And so I love that because it's transformational, and whatever sort of alchemy someone needs, whether it's switching, stress management, that's a kind of alchemy, or really deep healing, even if people have something like nerve damage or cancer, it handles a lot of different things.
Wow. It never occurred to me that different modalities would work better in certain areas of our planet and that some would be more universal. That's really interesting. I know I've talked to you a little bit about different things like allergies and, food intolerances and things like that. So there's spiritual reasons that someone might come to see you. Can you talk a little bit more about the physical reasons that somebody might come to see you and what kind of results they can get?
Sure, yeah. So stories of Jesus healing people, right? So people have heard Jesus raised people from the dead, that kind of thing. And I'm not quite there yet, but I have gotten 3 people out of ICU within distance encephalic ray healing. So I do get calls like that, from family members of, hey, my brother's in a coma, my sister's really sick, can you do something distance? And I'm like, yeah, we can. And the encephalic ray healing has that universal and cosmic energy. And so it doesn't matter also where on the planet you are. I just need their name and location, essentially, and I can send the energy there. But when I do actually group healings here in San Diego, and I've got friends in other parts of the world that do it too if people want a referral, but I can also do distance sessions. And I have people usually come in for a set of 3, but I've had people come in that have had severe nerve damage. So people that were on workman's comp or social security disability for 3 to 5 years and not able to work. And after their 3rd session, they were able to go back to work. And that's with previously diagnosed complete nerve damage. So I've seen things repair with that energy, which were given no hope of repairing before. And I've seen people have a reversal of even epilepsy with that. So it's pretty interesting. The energies go really deep and can really help reform the physicality even. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I have so many questions for you now. Okay, Okay, so I'm sure that everybody who's listening now is wondering what their belief system needs to be in order to get results from the kind of services you offer. Does it help if anybody is a particular religion or not of a particular religion?
No, that's the cool thing about a universal tradition is that you don't need to subscribe to any philosophy particularly for it. I've had people get sent in, like a family member's like, oh, this guy needs major healing, and send him in, and he's kind of like, my mom sent me or whoever, and I'm like, that's cool. I'm like, just relax and enjoy it. And one of my favorite ones was a guy whose girlfriend sent him in for what's called a life activation because she thought he needed a little boost because the life activation helps people get more on their path and their purpose and stuff. And he was just all, my girlfriend sent me, and I'm like, it's cool, dude. We're just going to do the session. Like, you don't have to do anything about it. Just like go home after, tell her you did it. It's fine. And he was like, okay. And he was an atheist, and I've had a lot of atheists. Actually, in Seattle, about 70% of my clients were atheists, which is fine. And it was funny, though, because I called him a month later. And so I called him, and I was like, hey, so how's it been going? He's like, oh, cool, I was like, so did you feel anything different after life activation? He's like, no. And I was like, okay, I was like, well, what's been going on for you? He's like, well, I got a different job, and I started working out, and my relationship with my girlfriend's better, and we got a dog. I'm like, yeah, nothing changed, so it's just funny. I have had people even come in for the Anthropic Ray healing, too, that were sent, and we're kind of like, ooh, I've tried everything, like, I don't believe in this kind of whatever, but it's cool because even they get like pain reduction, a lot from that, or sometimes even emotional shifts. So I've seen a lot change without people needing to believe it. It's kind of the same as like, do you have to believe in gravity for gravity to work? No. Gravity still works. And so it's the same kind of thing. It's all unseen forces of the universe, and so the same as we're submitted to cosmic radiation and gravity and, physics, like it's the same kind of deal.
So what would you say then if somebody was of a particular religion and they were on the fence, not knowing if this was something that was supported by their belief system or not?
That's really cool. Yeah, and I'm very sensitive to that because I know that different religions have different ways of dealing with the unseen. And it's cool because Solomon actually worked with people from all different traditions back then, about 3,000 plus years ago. And people might even read in the Bible about him having people in the desert for 40 years. And that's what they were doing. They were actually all co-testing all of their modalities. So that's why it's a universal system. And like, he didn't consider himself to be part of any particular religion. He considered himself to be spiritual. And so he invited everybody in. So let's say I was a representative from a Celtic tribe and I came in and I would bring all of our healings, our baby blessings, the things we use to bless our crops, like our home blessings, our teachings, like whatever we had. And then I would be put in a group with people from everywhere. So in our tradition, oral tradition, we say there were even people from the Australian Aboriginal tribe, South America, which sounds crazy, right? Because it was far, and different parts of Asia, everywhere, and Africa. And I would be asked to try all of my tribe's healing modalities on everybody. And anything that didn't work on every kind of human was thrown out of the tradition. So no matter how good it was in its own area, it wouldn't have been included. So there was already, even back then, an intermixing of all the different belief systems. And it's really cool because I do have training in several different traditions, and through my whole 30 plus year spiritual path, I have, interfaced with Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, Hindu, and lots of different shamanic styles. And it's kind of cool because I see the little pieces of that are woven into the tradition, even from, because we hand it down exactly as it has been for 3,000 years. And I see those pieces, and it's really cool to see those come out because I know, I was like, oh, they were still doing this back then, and they all came together. And so it's pretty cool because it doesn't exclude anybody. And if someone decides to, for example, become initiated as a healer in our tradition, you're not asked to give up any aspect of your own religious practice. So like, I've initiated people who are Christian, Mormon, Hindu, Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, and also pagan. It goes with and empowers all the things you're already doing. So it boosts it. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
So I bet you've been able to see some amazing life changes come through your practice.
One person that was really fun to work with was an artist who came in. I work with a lot of artists, and she had big artistic block, and she knew that she had like a woman show in her, and she had a lot of story to tell, but she was really, tied up with emotional stuff, which that's common, right, in our culture, because we don't have a good way to really move through our emotions. The typical ways weren't really working for her. Like sometimes people come in where they're having a hard time making progress with therapy or meds or whatever, and sometimes the energetics underneath need to be addressed, essentially. And so it was really cool because I actually worked with her for a year, so doing about a healing session a month, and then culminated with initiation at the end of the year. And it was so amazing because she was doing work that was okay for her but wasn't totally aligned with what she wanted to do, and she knew that she needed to be out telling her story, which connects with children and people with ADHD. She had this huge transformation after initiation to where she had the unblockage of all of that energy. And then she was able to, during that year, write her one-woman show. And now she's out, giving talks and being a speaker and having the show travel around to help people, especially kids that are put in special ed classes. And that's her passion. And so it's really cool. I've seen things like that unfold for people. And that's just one example, but I've seen a lot of other cool things.
You mentioned a little bit about her working with children with ADHD, which makes me wonder, can your modalities help kids who are on the spectrum or suffering from different ADD diagnoses? We have so much going on right now in our world with our kiddos not being able to function within the standard norms that society is setting for them. Can you talk a little bit about parents who might bring their kiddos to you?
Actually, part of the reason that I do this work is because when I had my child, I ended up with a really severe case of postpartum depression and psychosis, actually. And as a pharmacologist, I tried 30 different drugs. I was with like the top diagnostic psychiatrist in my area in Seattle, who actually ran the mood disorder clinic of the university, very well-esteemed person. And I had really great therapists and hypnotherapists and massage, and I was doing my shamanic work and nutrition, everything, you name it, right? And nothing was budging. And I was at a very deep catatonic, almost suicidal spot because I thought I was really stuck that way. Then I went and I found this woman who gave me the life activation, and it actually changed my brain chemistry. So that was my okay, after 3 years of all these things and nothing changed, that one hour session shifted my brain chemistry. So I know it can do that. It's safe enough that when I got my initiation to be able to do the healing, my son, who was in 7, asked me, he's like, what were you doing while you were gone? And I was like, well, I learned how to do this healing. And he's like, can I do it? And I was like, yeah. And so he's the first person that I did that session on when I was, able to do it. And it's safe for children and pets even. And it does help because part of the reason that we are seeing a lot of younger people not really gelling with the system is because the system needs to be healed. Everything about the system needs to be healed, and a lot of it needs to be transformed. And these kids that aren't gelling with it are the ones to really do that because it really doesn't work for them. And, some of us that are a little older, it's like we can kind of work even though we know it's not awesome, but we might not be as motivated to shift it. Part of my work is to support these younger people through this change by giving them the healing and bolstering to feel strong to do it. And things like life activation, which are safe even for babies, help align the brain waves. Children that are diagnosed often with ADHD might have what's called gamma brainwaves as predominant, which is a very high frequency brainwave. What our system likes to do is just give them a drug to get that down to a beta brainwave, which is kind of a normal brainwave state for adults. But it kind of sedates them sometimes, right? So they're not as creative. That gamma brainwave is needed to bring in those new ideas and the things we need to change. So it's so interesting how thousands and thousands of kids have been medicated over the past 10 or 20 years. And maybe those ideas were lost, and hopefully other people will pick them up and bring them in. Life activation and Suffolk Ray can help with the brain waves, and meditation does too. Being in the world can feel painful because the world as it is now isn't awesome necessarily all the time. It can be a little gross. Working with that, with the meditation helps them be able to get to beta if they need to, right? And that's to be working within the system sometimes, but we don't want that gamma totally shut down. We want them to be able to modulate. So the meditation really helps with that and gives a lot of peace. And some of the more shamanic work too can really help, because sometimes they need some grounding too. Yeah.
I'm so glad you started talking about kids and young people with the discomfort that they're feeling in their bodies and in society, because it is such an epidemic right now. So many kids don't feel comfortable in their own bodies. They don't feel comfortable in their own minds, and they don't know what to make sense of in this world, because it just seems like they don't fit. They feel like they don't fit. Is there something that you can share with us, with any parents who might be listening, any kind of meditation practice that they can start using right now to help relieve that discomfort?
Yeah, so breathing is really important, and then also feeling embodied. And so if they're feeling kind of detached or a little weird, it's like, do something really physical, like take them to the garden or a garden if you don't have one. Let them really get their hands in the dirt. Like that's a really good grounding thing to do. Or working with clay, for the really small children. But I mean, I like to still work with clay too. It's very healing, having that connection and touch with earth. And there's something that happens ionically too, with like our feet being in the sand or our hands being in the dirt. There's an exchange that happens that's very healing. So really connecting with the elements that way can be really helpful. And it's kind of the beginning of any kind of shamanic magical training, is connecting with the elements. So finding a really cool way to connect with earth like that, or with water. Like kids love to play in water, most of them. And so, if they're maybe dealing with a lot of emotional stuff, maybe they might like to have a bath. And they could have a bath where they put things like salts in there. So it's kind of like a chemistry experiment, and they can enjoy it, or put oils or flower petals, something like that. Kids are also can be really helpful in the kitchen. And when you're getting connection with water elements, making soup is really good. So kids can help stir the soup. So they're doing something physical there. And that's even really little kids, like 3 and 4-year-old can help you cook. And then ways to deal with air, so breathing is really important, like, and letting kids feel their breath. A lot of times we're not given any kind of training, and people just breathe really high up in the chest, and that'll keep someone stressed out in their head and detached. So really helping kids learn to breathe into their belly. And, if you're not breathing all the way down into your belly, that gives a signal to your system that it needs to make more cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And so if you can help the kids learn to actually breathe in their belly and take that moment, and do like 3 sets of 3 deep breaths together, that'll really help relieve stress and reset. And that's even a technique that's been medically tested, actually, is doing 3 sets of 3 deep breaths. That's 9 breaths, 5 times a day. That was shown as a really effective intervention for people who care for their family members with Alzheimer's, to help them de-stress. And it even changed their blood chemistry in a good way. So it helped with fats and sugars in the blood, just that breathing. And that's because of the cortisol. If nothing else, people can always tune into their breath. And if you can't breathe anymore, then you don't need to learn anything else. You're done, right?
Oh, I love it. Okay, so if our children are having a hard time, and this is for us too, right? Because we all have our own little inner children. If we're having a hard time, we can make use of the elements. So one thing would be to touch dirt, get hands in the soil, or play with clay, put our feet in the sand.
Yeah.
Then you said water. Take a bath, soak in a bath, put some salts in the bath, make soup, something with water. And then you said air. So make sure that we're doing that deep belly breathing at least 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got earth, wind, water. What's the other one?
Fire.
Okay.
So fire you want to be careful with for a number of reasons. It burns and it can get uncontrollable. And that happens too, right? If you see so much anger in our culture, that's an imbalance of fire energy and uncontrolled fire energy. Fire, you want to do something very gentle and contained. Like that's what you want, is you want just enough fire, right? Enough fire for inspiration, enough fire for passion, but not enough fire to burn the house down. So, if you have a safe fireplace, that's a good thing to look at is, just contemplate the fireplace if you have one, or if you have an outdoor fire pit and you can make like a nice controlled warm fire, so you're having a good experience of it. If you don't have access to those things, just having a little bit of sunlight on you or feeling that sunlight on you is healthy and good. I'm like, I moved here from Seattle to have more access to that. We didn't have much sun for a while. Or, a candle flame. So, and kids usually like to also look at candles. So of course you've got to, be aware of the age of the child and, maintain the environment for safety for them. But kids like to look at candles and fire, and that's a really gentle way to connect with the fire element for adults too. So that's why some people do like to have candlelight around, because it's a very gentle connection to that fire element, but without it being out of control, because we don't want the forest fire.
And what does the fire element provide for us as far as the rebalancing goes?
There's a lot of apathy in the world, right? And lack of passion. And part of it is that mismatch. So like our system itself is kind of weird. And who wants to go to a 9-to-5 job that they don't like? Like that'll sap your passion for sure. But the fire element helps with that. So you'll have passion to do what you want to do and inspiration. But also, if you think of fire, what it naturally does, it burns out extra air, right? So if fire happens in a room, it can suffocate people. It takes the oxygen out. However, if there's a lot of extra air, that can be good to use a little bit of fire element to balance that, because it'll help, deplete if there's too much air. And a time when you could think that there might be too much air element is if someone's just caught in their thoughts.
Okay, so if I find that I'm really in my thoughts and I'm feeling scattered and airheaded,
Right.
just focusing on a candle for a little bit and bringing my attention there can help reground.
Yeah, definitely. I really recommend meditation for everybody, because that's what helps clean out the old patterns within ourselves. So, unless we're all aware of who and what we are, we're not going to be able to create things that are going to be beneficial in the long term for all of us. And we don't really know ourselves. So that hour of meditation a day, I recommend for everybody, brings peace and healing and self-knowledge and creativity. We can use the meditation to clean ourselves out. And, some people are like, well, I don't have time for meditation, or I can't meditate. I've tried to meditate. I can't do it. I'm like, everybody can meditate. It just is a matter of finding out the style that works for you. I've worked with at least 60 different styles of meditation throughout my time doing this. And I'm very confident. I mean, I do personal meditation coaching sessions for people, and I'm very confident that we can find something that works for everybody, because there are so many different ways to do it. So never take no for an answer. Always try.
So there's not just one right way to do it. You said there's like over 60 different ways that somebody can meditate, and you just practice and find the one that works for you.
Oh, yeah. Some people are very good with visual things for meditating, and so they have a lot of fun meditating, and it might be easier for them because they can see all these cool things. And then some people are more clairaudient, right? So they are more on the hearing spectrum, and that can still be fun, but it can be a little harder for them to meditate maybe, and so they can get a little frustrated sometimes. And then people that are very clairsentient, so their psychic sense is predominantly like knowing or feeling, it can be very difficult for them to have a good meditation experience in a typical empty your mind or visualize this kind of way. And so there's moving meditation, or you can just work with the breath, or you can work with connecting with chakras, or connecting with all that is. I mean, there's so many different ways and styles to work with meditation, and also shift how we're using our psychic senses too, so just the same as if one person is born good at math and someone else is good at swimming and someone else is good at making art, it's the same thing with our psychic senses. So there's different ways we can learn to use each of them more, if you want to increase your other senses, and then it makes the whole experience of meditation a lot more interesting.
Okay, very cool. So if somebody didn't even know where to start looking for a good meditation practice, that's something that you would help them learn and discover and grow?
But yeah, I love to help people with that. That's one of my very favorite things to do, is do the private meditation coaching. If I'm not in their local area and they want to connect with someone physically who's there, I have people that are trained the same way I am in about 60 countries. So I'm pretty sure we could find someone close by. Yeah, so people can feel welcome to Facebook Messenger me, or, send an email, or whatever they like, and I'm happy to help them out. Yeah.
Okay. And what kind of classes do you have coming up for anybody who is local to San Diego?
So I regularly have relaxing meditation, usually on Monday nights. So that's all listed on the Facebook page. And then I've got astral travel coming up at the end of March, which is super cool. And that's something that especially creative people or younger people that have more of that gamma type brainwave, they often just really take to that like ducks to water. It's really cool. And I mean, adults can do it too, of course, but the young ones especially really love it because it's neat. I mean, you can travel anywhere in the universe. And actually, in April, I also have an initiation class coming up, and that's a 2-day class, and that's very special. So that's really helpful for people that want to be more effective in the world because it really stabilizes all of your energies, but it also gives you extra protection in your aura. So as you're going out doing your work in the world, it feels less harsh, and things feel a little more easeful, which is nice. And it was like immensely helpful for me with getting over my depression, having the initiation. But it also brought to me, and I've seen it do it for a lot of people, brings you your community. So if you're feeling out of place in the world, like for me, it lit up all the people I was supposed to connect with, and it was so healing and amazing. And you get the whole tools. I mean, this initiation is something we all used to have access to, and it's something we've been missing, which, there is like that need for the connection to history and tradition and actual like handbook of being human. That's how I feel like it is, that class. Like what is it? What are we here to do? And what does it all mean? And how does this work? How do I work this thing? And it's all about how to really work your energy body and who you are, but be physically effective on earth too. So it's not just like a spiritual escape, and that's something I appreciate about this. It's very practical, so all these people coming in with new ideas, all these artists, all these healers, like we're here to really rock it out. And it's like, if you could 10 times what you're doing, why not?
Why not? I'm sure we could all use a little 10 times of ourselves, 10 times of our gifts, 10 times our abilities.
Exactly.
Yeah, peace on earth. 10
Yep,
times.
that's what I'm talking about.
Oh,
That's what I want to see in my lifetime. That's why I'm doing this. Yep.
oh, wouldn't that just be amazing?
I mean, I really do this because I do want to see peace on earth. And I feel that each of us has a part in that, and sometimes people are feeling very disconnected from that or connection at all or their life purpose. And this tradition has really effective tools for connecting with your life purpose and really manifesting. And you've got Universal Kabbalah, which is the most amazing, like complete magic that I've found. And if you really want to manifest, like that's the place where I get people to work in. And I mean, we've got a full set of tools, so it's kind of like the Hogwarts, that's been in secret. So when people are like, I want to go to Hogwarts, I'm like, come on down, let's do it. It's like there's magic, right? But there's also the practicality, and I like blending those two things for people because we want effectiveness in our life, and we want more joy, and we want more abundance and health, and it's like all these things are accessible, but it's also not necessarily going to be through the old channels that we've come to expect, and so we need to be looking outside the edges of what was and connect with what could be, and that's what this work essentially is. So I feel really confident in the lineage that goes back 3,000 years as it is, but a lot of the tradition goes back 8,000 years, so it's very, very rooted and very safe. And I love supporting people on their journey. So if anyone has questions from anywhere in the world, they can feel welcome to email me. And if I'm not physically able to get to them, I can hook them up with someone who can.
Cleaning out the old so we can make
Yes.
room for the new.
That's right.
Beautiful. Well, Karla, thank you so much for hanging out with us today and sharing
Yeah.
your wisdom.
Awesome. Thank you. Mwah. Bye.